Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 16th of June 2025. These are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. In fact, today's show is completely encircling the Israel-Iran conflict. What are the latest updates on that? What is the global perspective on that? What is Pakistan's perspective on that? The fake propaganda that has involved Pakistan as far as the nuclear issue and Pakistan is concerned. The different fake news that have been circulating, propagated by the Indian media that concern Pakistan. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about India's abstention at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as well regarding Iran and why that happened. That and more, of course, will be discussed. Also, the India-Israel nexus will be discussed in detail during the course of this whole program. Iran has launched a new wave of ballistic missile attacks on Israel, including Tel Aviv and Haifa. This is, of course, in reaction to Israel's various attacks on Iran that have been happening since the last few days. The death toll from Israel's attack on Iran has risen to more than 220. That includes 70 women and children as well. Two intelligence chiefs of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and two other generals have been killed in the latest attacks by Israel in Iran on Sunday. And of course, Iran is also retaliating. But this is creating a new aspect to the whole Middle East conflict and to the global concerns as well as to the escalation of this conflict and where it could lead to. The US says that it is not behind or backing Israel's stance as far as Iran is concerned, but Iran says otherwise. This and more are going to be discussed in the whole gamut of this show. We've been joined in this by Dr. Saad Khan. He's an international security expert. Thank you very much, Dr. Saad, to have joined us. We'll also be joined by Dr. Maleeha Lodhi online. She is a former ambassador to the United Nations, to the United States and to the United Kingdom. Oh, I can see you. Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, thank you very much to have joined us. We'll begin with you, Dr. Saad. Dr. Saad, let's begin with the whole aspect of what has been happening. The Israeli military continues to launch these attacks against Iranian military and nuclear sites, major cities as well. The Israeli military had said it has launched a wave of strikes against as a reaction to what Iran said, but of course this is a whole gamut of to and fro that has been happening since Israel launched the attacks on Iran. How significant is this development that has been going on since the last few days, and what are the repercussions that you are foreseeing right now?
Thank you very much for having me here. I think this was more or less anticipated because Israel had a consistent policy that, throughout decades that it would not let any neighboring country develop enough capability to damage or destroy Israel. And they had done this thing with the Osirak reactor in Iraq back in 1981. They had been instrumental in the dismantling of the nuclear laboratories and everything in Libya under Gaddafi, and they were instrumental in the UN sanctions. And they also attacked chemical factories in Syria during Bashar al-Assad's regime. Iran, they had been holding back because they thought that Iran was a strong enough country that could retaliate. And there were certain regional powers which were pro-Iran, like the Ansarullah government in Yemen, which is called Houthis, the Bashar al-Assad's Ba'athist regime in Syria, Hezbollah, which was a strong, potent force, stronger than the armed forces of Lebanon, in Lebanon. And the past 2 years have seen almost the decimating of entire leadership of Hezbollah, the entire leadership of Hamas. Even Houthis have been weakened. Syrian regime has collapsed, and the new president Ahmed al-Shara is in no mood to annoy the Iranians. So I thought that they thought that this is once in a generation moment that they take on the Iranian nuclear reactors directly.
All right. So they take on the Iranian nuclear reactors directly. Nevertheless, Mr. Grossi, who is the Director General of the IAEA, says that no significant damage has come out of the attacks on the Iranian nuclear facilities as far as contamination is concerned. Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, thank you very much to have joined us. What do you foresee as the strategic objectives now that the strikes continue from the Israeli side? The Iranian reaction also is being seen by everyone. Do you still feel that it's going to be a limited strike, or is it going to be a signal for a broader confrontation in the region?
Well, there's a real danger that the war can be a prolonged one, and also that the war can spread in the region. Israel is trying desperately to involve the United States so that the US joins Israel. One of the reasons that Israel has failed to really damage Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, and the main one is in a place called Faryal. The reason is they don't have the technical means to do that because this facility is buried deep underground, and Israel does not have the bunker buster capability that the United States has, which is why it's desperate for the US to also join it. The US so far has indicated that it does not wish to become a direct participant in the war, even though, of course, the US is very much involved. Without the US giving a green light to the Israelis, there would have been no attack on Iran. So, I mean, there's been a lot of lies and deception on the part of the United States, on the part of President Trump, who tried to engage the Iranians in negotiations while preparing the ground and allowing Israel to go ahead and attack Iran. So, this is a very, very perilous situation. It's a very dangerous situation. I think the region is on knife edge. It's really uncertain which way it's going to go. There was also a miscalculation on the part of Israel and the United States that somehow Iran has been so weakened, as one of your people who just commented said, Iran is so weak now that it will not be able to respond at all. Well, Iran may have been weakened, but it certainly responded. 3 days running, Iran has also rained missiles and drones over Israel. And despite Israel's anti-ballistic missile capability and air defense systems, which are very sophisticated, provided, of course, by the United States, they have not been able to stop or intercept all the missiles coming in from Iran. So this is a very, very dangerous situation, and it leaves the region really, as I said before, on knife edge.
All right. Talking a little bit further as far as the knife's edge is concerned that the region is now pointing towards, how do you assess the Iranian claims, I mean, as per the Iranian foreign minister's statement to the different ambassadors there, that Israel's attack on the Natanz nuclear facility constitutes a violation of international law and a dangerous precedent that could destabilize global nuclear diplomacy? Also adding to this question, do you feel that the talks that were going on as far as the nuclear facilities in Iran is concerned will be on suspension? Is there any future now that Israel has started invading Iran?
Well, how can you have talks when a country is being attacked and its nuclear facilities are being attacked?
But I mean, the US still says that it wants to negotiate. Iran says it still wants to negotiate.
The US can say whatever it wants. You have to look at the reality. Don't go by rhetoric and posture, go by policy. What is the policy right now? There's a war going on. Who started the war? Israel. Who's the aggressor? Israel. Who helped Israel and gave Israel the green light? The United States. So what negotiations are we talking about? I mean, this has to be serious. So I think, here we have a situation where Israel's objectives seem to have also widened from wanting to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, which it has been unable to do. It is also talking about regime change. And of course, the fact that it's asking the US to help it and to get involved directly in the war, what does it indicate? It indicates that Israel has not been able to achieve all its objectives. Of course, it's continuing its bombardment. It is continuing to, again, send missiles and actually target civilian residential areas, including in Tehran. So, I mean, this is a criminal state. This is a rogue state, which is acting in a rogue manner, which it always does. This is a country that has attacked 5 countries in the neighborhood. 5 countries. Yes. So, I mean, it's very clear who the aggressor is, who the rogue state is, who the criminal state is, who has no regard.
Now, Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, now that I mean, it's very clear. I mean, the world knows who the aggressor is, and you've also reiterated that. The G7 is meeting in Canada. All right. Iran has requested an extraordinary meeting of the United Nations Security Council. In the G7, there are already two factions. One faction that supports Israeli stance one way or the other, and that includes most of the European countries. And then there's the other side of the spectrum as far as G7 is concerned. What is going to be the impact of the G7 and the United Nations Security Council on this ongoing conflict? Will there be any respite, or will things continue just like they are in the Middle East, in Palestine?
Well, so far we've seen no effort at the international level for any kind of de-escalation. Countries have made statements urging restraint and urging de-escalation, but no actionable measure or move has been made. The UN Security Council already met. And yes, there were speeches by everyone, including the Iranian and the Israeli. Pakistan's permanent rep also made his statement, but there was nothing actionable. There was no resolution was, considered, adopted. So we have to wait and see whether from this G7 meeting any kind of effort is evident that seeks to de-escalate the situation. If the United States is not interested in ending this war, then you will not see anything from the G7. But if the US is interested, then it doesn't need the G7. All it needs to do is tell Israel to stop, and Israel will stop.
All right, that of course I totally agree with you. Dr. Saad, what implications in your point of view does Iran's assertion of US complicity in Israel's aggression carry for the regional power dynamics that are changing with literally every passing week? Also, with the US on one side, as Dr. Maleeha Lodhi has also pointed out, is clearly giving a green light to Israel to do whatever it does. On the other hand, Donald Trump says that they are not siding with Israel, and on the other hand, he also says that he is pushing for talks between Israel and Iran, and similar to the talks between India and Pakistan. This is what he has said. What should we believe as far as the United States' point of view on the current conflict is concerned?
All right. So, as Dr. Maleeha Lodhi said, everybody has a right, every state, to say what it likes. And there is one thing that a country states, and there can be another thing that the country wants. United States, we all know, that has been supporting Israel for the past 8 decades. We also know that without United States help, Israel would not have been bullying around with other countries as it had been doing without US support, because when they know that there would be no resolution ever adopted, because the resolution will be vetoed by United States, even condemning, because condemning is just a word, Israel for whatever it had been doing in Palestine for the past 2 years, and what it is doing in Iran for the past 4 days. So, that is the green light that my colleague was talking about. I think that in the long run, the United States would not like to drag into another conflict. That was not done in President Trump's previous term. That is not likely to be done in this present term, because Marco Rubio in his statement said that Iran should not even consider attacking US interests in the region, because they want themselves to be kept out of it. Yes, I think President Trump wants to be seen as a peacemaker. I've seen analysis in which he is desirous of having a Nobel Peace Prize like Obama. So maybe he will facilitate the talks between Israel and Iran. But on whose terms? On Israel's terms. That's the case.
That is the major the thing, that is the major statement that the world is also looking towards. But there is a clear divide when it comes to this conflict as well. There are nations that side with Israel. There are nations that side with Israel, but they do not want to openly side with the conflict. They side with Israel's right to response, but they are not siding openly with this. And there are other countries that are siding with Iran. Dr. Maleeha Lodhi, last view of an Iranian foreign ministry spokesperson says Iran's parliament is currently working on a legislation to pull Tehran out of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the NPT. What are going to be the repercussions if this does happen?
Well, obviously, it will be the strongest signal that if Iran can ride out this crisis, they will seriously then examine or go towards nuclear weapon capability. I mean, so far, Iran has been very clear in saying they have the right to have enrichment. And that was one of the points that was of sharp disagreement with the United States and with Israel, because at Israel's behest, the US changed the goalpost in the negotiations that were held. It started by saying, yes, Iran could continue with enrichment so long as it didn't make nuclear weapons. But then it changed the goalpost and said no enrichment. And that was a deal breaker. And that Iran will never accept, because that means there's no negotiation. They want a surrender by Iran. So if there is an indication now that Iran is considering or can consider pulling out of the NPT, then that means that Iran will reserve the right to go for nuclear weapons. As simple as that. That is once they are able to ride out this crisis.
All right, and that crisis is, I mean, at least not far from over as we speak. Thank you very much, Dr. Maleeha, Lodhi, to have joined us as far as this part of the show is concerned. We have to go to a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we're discussing the Israel-Iran conflict that continues to exacerbate with every passing day. There are strikes by Israel almost every day, after every couple of hours, and of course there's also the retaliation by Iran. Dr. Saad Khan continues to join us. Dr. Saad, when it comes to the reaction, the global reaction, I'd like to understand 2 or 3 perspectives. Let's begin with our not so friendly eastern neighbor, that is India. India refuses to condemn Israel at the SCO summit, recent SCO summit. What does this signal about the evolving strategic priorities in the Middle East, and how might, in your point of view, this shape Tehran's perception of New Delhi in the long run?
I think Tehran should have understood this long ago, because India has never ever supported Iran or any Muslim country, even Palestine, on principal grounds. Whenever they did so for some economic benefit, some trade deal which was in the offing. So even here, when during Pakistan-India talks, Iran remained neutral, and Iranian foreign minister came here and then in Delhi. Even the media in India was how unfriendly towards them. Even the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, they distanced themselves from the statement condemning Israeli aggression, because they want their long-term score settlement with Pakistan with the help of Israel. Right. Because their own weapons they have seen, that French weapons, US weapons, Russian weapons, what we have done to them in Operation Bunyanu Marsus. So they do not want to do anything which Israel would be offended by. So that is one thing. The other thing is, probably India is also interested in Iran not having a nuclear weapon, because they already know that there is one Muslim country, Pakistan, which has a nuclear weapon. So India has a vested interest in, for example, Iran, Iraq or Libya's nuclear installations being destroyed. And in any case, India never had a moral based foreign policy. They have never said a word of support for the Palestinians, and then they call them the biggest democracy of the world. What hypocrisy is this?
All right, the hypocrisy is evident. Not only the Indian hypocrisy, but the Israeli also manipulation is quite evident to the world to see. But that is another thing altogether, that many countries are, turning a blind eye and a deaf ear as far as all of this is concerned. We've been joined by Shazia Malik all the way from Canada. Shazia, thank you very much to have joined us. Let's begin a little bit by talking about Israel and its manipulation of it all, to be through the media, through the different countries as well. Intelligence manipulation has historical precedence when it comes to Israel. British journalist Robert Fisk has in the past critiqued also the Israeli narrative of the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. If you remember well, Netanyahu had addressed the US Congress claiming Iraq had weapons of mass destruction way back in 2002. He later used similar fear tactics against Iran's nuclear program as well. Isn't this machination by Israel more than evident to all? And if so, is there going to be a clear division within the global community in the coming days?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, Omar, once again. Well, about Iran, Israel has been saying this for the last several years, as you have mentioned yourself. And but who did we see cooperating more with the world? Who signed the NPT? It was Iran. Iran has always, followed all the international laws related to the, nuclear enrichment. It also allowed IAEA inspectors inside Iran, and they have been inspecting their facilities. So it was Israel that never followed the international law. It never signed NPT, and it did not allow IAEA inspectors to inspect its facilities. In fact, some of the experts here in West think that Israel has something between 70 to 400 nuclear weapons. So it is, of course, the aggressor is very, very clear in front of our eyes. The main thing of this attack is that Israel wishes to bring about a regime change for the simple fact that, if you know, in the times of Reza Shah Pahlavi, they had very close ties. And in fact, Iran was buying Israel's military equipment as well. So, and you might have seen that the crown prince has all of a sudden started talking about this, the Iranian crown prince I'm talking about. He has been asking people and the Iranians not to side with the Iranian regime at that.
This is very interesting that you point that out. It's very interesting that you pointed out, because the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar denies that Israel is seeking regime change in Iran. He was talking to CNN, and he was asked whether Khamenei is a potential target of Israeli military offensive. He said the government is not aiming to topple the Iranian leadership, quote unquote. What do you, why is Israel blatantly lying on the media?
Well, that's their modus operandi. That's what they do. What happened during Operation Sindoor in your own country? Do you know that India has been lying? So that's what they do. But just imagine that their Mossad operatives were sitting right inside Iran, and they were killing all their top leadership in military and their scientists. What was the motive of this thing? If they do not want a regime change in the country, definitely they are doing this with the blessings of our Uncle Sam. And even Uncle Sam says that we are not really involved. So they are not really ready to recognize all these things at the global level. However, this is the main thing. But what Iran can do, and that can actually devastate the whole world, is that they can close the Strait of Hormuz. If they do so, the oil prices are going to hit $100 per barrel. And if the oil prices rise, imagine where the global economy will go. So it is extremely imperative that all this conflict comes to a halt. Now, in Canada, where I am sitting, the G7 meeting has already started, and even Mr. Modi is expected this evening over here. Definitely the talks are going to be with Mr. Modi, with the Trump administration, with Mr. Trump himself, and all the other leaders.
Shazia, India is not even a member of the G7. Why invite Narendra Modi?
Pardon? Sorry?
India is not a member of the G7. Why invite Narendra Modi?
Yes, absolutely. That is a huge point why he has been called over here. This is going to be his sixth, participation in G7 here in Canada. A whole lot of six. They are extremely, they were against it. And even our MP Sukh Dhaliwal, he talked to Mr. Carney, the Prime Minister, and he told him that he has betrayed us, this Mr. Modi, and his Lashkar-e-Modi, that I call it, the whole Lashkar-e-Modi. They have been, devastating the society over here. They have been interfering in our election system. They have been killing our people. You have heard just one name, that is Harjeet Singh Nijjar. But just a few days back, Mr. Dhada, another businessman, he was killed. So now, today, if you look at, Alberta, where this G7 meeting is being held, there are huge, Sikh rally that is being held, and they are holding their Khalistani flags, and they were extremely, critical of Mr. Carney, saying that why you have called. However, Mr. Carney really, defended his decision. He said that there are a lot of things. There is a lot of uncertainty on the trade front, keeping in view Mr. Trump's tariffs, war that he has started. So it is very, very important for all the countries with whom apparently they have the same values, although I don't think India has the same values as the Europeans. However, they think that Mr. Carney said that we wanted India to be on the table. In fact, the Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand, she called actually Mr. S. Subramaniam and S. Jaishankar, and she said that we are inviting Mr. Modi over here. So there is a huge hue and cry here in Canada at the moment. The MPs are not happy. The Liberal MPs himself, means Mr. Carney's.
Shazia, you talk about the unhappiness as far as the Indian Prime Minister's presence at the G7 summit is concerned. I'd also like to understand this. The coordinated fake news campaign that has been launched by India and its allies, linking Pakistan to the Iran-Israel conflict. Who benefits from this disinformation, and why do it at this critical juncture?
Of course India does. Of course India does. What do you think? India wants to devastate Pakistan on all fronts. It does not want Pakistan to rise. It hates Pakistan. Let me put it in very, very simple and straightforward, or rather crude words. They don't want Pakistan to rise. Didn't you see when this whole talk with IMF was going on, how they tried to stop that? They could not, of course, rally the world narrative towards them. Mr. Shashi Tharoor has been going out and meeting with a lot of people, definitely not decision makers, but he took this large delegation and he has been talking to communities here in West against Pakistan, although he has been singing also, and people were in India were very upset about this, that this is not his job. Anyways, that's besides the point. And so at every level, they have been trying to damage Pakistan. Mr. S. Jaishankar, have you seen his style? He's so aggressive whenever he sits in front of the Western people, whenever there is a talk on Pakistan. That's not how you run diplomacy. But you know what they say? If you can't make it...
As far as India is concerned, Shazia, that is how things are as far as India is concerned. We'll come back to you in a short moment. But Dr. Saad, I'd like to highlight a little bit of what I've asked Shazia as well. A fake account, which is called Iran_official, claims that according to Israeli channels, Pakistan has informed the US that if a nuclear strike is carried out against Iran, Pakistan will launch a nuclear response against Israel. This was shared in many WhatsApp groups very recently, and this is fake news. This baseless, malicious propaganda by the raw agencies to generate sympathy for Israel. My question to you is, how does this fake nuclear threat propaganda reveal the growing collaboration between RAW and Israel in targeting Pakistan diplomatically and digitally? And how dangerous is this misuse of social media to manipulate global narratives?
First of all, Pakistan is a very, very responsible nuclear state, right? Pakistan has a very clear, well-defined, well-delineated nuclear doctrine, which says that our nuclear weapon is also only for self-defense, and it's only against India. Self-defense against India. We have, and that too in case of existential threat. Existential threat through conventional weapons may never come, because Pakistan has proven time and again, from Kargil to Pulwama to even the Abbottabad strikes, even to this latest operation Bunyanu Marsoos, that conventionally we are superior, so we don't have a problem. The question that we will use nuclear weapon in any other scenario is simply ridiculous. The point is that India in conventional weapons has lost to Pakistan. Now they know that without external help, they cannot fight Pakistan on equal terms ever again. So just like Prime Minister Netanyahu, his strategy is to try to pull the European Union or United States into the conflict, saying that we are fighting your war, because if Iran develops nuclear weapons or, for example, blocks the Hormuz Straits, it may be harmful or dangerous to your interests, that US interests or European interests, in an effort to bring them into Israel's side, or at least stay neutral when they are bombing Iran. Same is with India, because they want to show Israelis that, look, Pakistan is not our enemy, they can potentially be your enemy too. And that's why I think a stronger Iran, a stronger Afghanistan stronger China is in Pakistan's own vital interest. Because as long as Hezbollah was strong, as long as Hamas was a potent force, Iran was much, much safer than it is now. Because when you lose your allies and then Israel has only one enemy to set a score with at a time, then they can do so what they did not do for the past 45 years since the Iranian Revolution. They attacked directly their generals, they attacked their nuclear scientists, they attacked, even they were supposed to attack the supreme leader, and United States, according to reports, stopped them from doing so. So I think this is the Indian strategy to try to convince Israel gradually that Pakistan is a threat to their security. And I think that Israelis will never ever get the bait of the Indians. Israelis are very, very clear and very, very clever actually for their own interests. They will never allow themselves to be used for political gimmicks of Mr. Modi or the fake media that Raw is propagating.
All right, but let's see how this will further continue, because this is a fake media or misinformation or disinformation, something that has been going on and has been backed by India and its agencies since quite a long time, and have been manipulating the world into thinking that Pakistan is against all and any global interest for peace and stability. Anyways, I'd also like to understand the Iranian perspective in all of this. The Israelis say that they do not want to attack the women and children, the men, but this is what they do. This is what has happened in Gaza, this is what is happening in Iran. As far as this Iranian government spokesperson's comment is concerned, 75 women and children have been injured and 45 women and children have been killed in recent attacks. Hospitals have been targeted in West Tehran, if I'm not wrong. If that is the case, if on the one hand they say that their war is not with the people, aren't they replicating what they are doing in Palestine in Iran? And if so, will the world stay silent as it has been in the case of Palestine?
First of all, in the present day, fifth generation warfare, actually wars are fought less on the battlefields, more on social media, more on television and news channels, more on by public media influencers. And that is very, very important, because as long as Israel can play the victim card over 7th October attacks of Hamas, or as long as India can play the victim card over Pahalgam attack, many European countries or many European population or many European governments will somehow think that probably Israel too has a point. Actually, the first thing Pakistan has to, or Iran has to be very clear about is that we have first and foremost to fight the media war, claiming and telling the world that no, this is not the case. Actually, who is the aggressor? For example, if there are more women and children being killed in Pakistan, for example, in so-called their operation, the Indian operation, I don't want to name it, and even Pahalgam attackers, whom they call terrorists, did not touch a single woman and child, right? So these are some of the things that have to be clarified. Now the world community does not buy their argument. The day they were calling us terrorists, the world elected as vice chair of the UN Security Council and Counterterrorism Committee and the chair of the Sanctions Committee. So one of the things is that world may not be buying their arguments about Iran, but about Pakistan, it's very clear that world community did not buy our enemy's argument. Now about Iran, I think Iranians, Israel has never cared much about international law throughout its history. They have made targeted assassinations as a policy measure, just like Modi has done. They have destroyed hospitals, they have weaponized food, they have weaponized water. Both in Israel has done it in Gaza, and India has weaponized water in Jammu and Kashmir and against Pakistan. What is important is that Iran has to again and again hammer its conviction of not developing a nuclear weapon. Iran does not say that we will not make a nuclear weapon because NPT says so. Iran says we think it is un-Islamic, we think it is non-discriminatory, because if a nuclear bomb is used, then it cannot discriminate between civilian and military targets. So they say it's against Islam, they say there's a fatwa of the supreme leader, so we won't make it. The point of contention between Iran and the Western powers is that Iran says that it's right to develop peaceful nuclear technology, which is guaranteed in the NPT, cannot be compromised. So they say, okay, if we are developing, nuclear technology for power generation, for example, or for pesticide or several other things, radiation, cancer treatment, etc., etc., etc. That should not be up for discussion on the table. Somehow Israelis have convinced at least the United States, President Trump, that they have developed nuclear enrichment to the level of 60%, which has no civilian use. By 90%, you are just 7 days away from, making a nuclear weapon if you want to. What Israel is now doing is to convince the world that Iran is actually a threat to the regional security. And that's why they say that we will bomb it to submission in the way that they will open up all their reactors for international inspections like Saddam Hussein had to do or like Colonel Gaddafi had to do. That is the sticking point. Iranians say we will guarantee that we will not make nuclear weapons, but we cannot open up our nuclear facilities for enrichment, and that's a no-go area. And that's the sticking point, and that's why Israel is trying to pressurize them or bomb them into submission.
Bombing them into submission, whether that works or not is for something that we will see in the next couple of days. Shazia, I'd like to understand. Israel started all of this bombing and killing and targeting of the Iranian sites just when the 6th round of talks between Iran and the US were about to commence. I mean, they were to start on Sunday. Israel's Prime Minister says the military operation is going to continue as long as he deems it's necessary. Does this signal a drawn out conflict? Is it or is it just a targeted attack? Is there going to be some kind of a red line that when Israel crosses, the world will react, or will the world let Israel do whatever it wants?
No, you have already seen the comments of Russia and China. They are actually saying in very toned down tones that Israel has actually crossed the red line. The main problem over here is, and this very sentence that you have quoted, that Israel wants to continue this war as long as it takes because of Mr. Netanyahu's own problems domestically. He has been, the judiciary over there has opened up some time back a lot of cases, corruption cases against him. And also his government stands with a coalition. The government has told him, the coalition government partners have told him that he needs to, eliminate Palestine and set up a full-fledged Israeli state. So now his problem is, if he stops the war in Gaza, the coalition breaks. If he stops all these wars that he has started, because he's constantly attacking Syria and Yemen and Lebanon and now Syria, immediately, as soon as these wars end, his own corruption cases are going to be opened over there. So for his own political life, for his own political, agenda, he is devastating the whole, region. It will not be or remain contained inside Iran. It might, and definitely it will spread in the region, and it is right on the footsteps of Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan is very, very well equipped to defend itself, as it showed to India. India did not have the magnanimity of saying that it lost this war. It should have shown that magnanimity. Anyways, this war, what I mean to say, is going to spread in the region. Even today, I was listening to your own foreign minister and deputy prime minister, Mr. Ishaq Dar, who talked to Mr. Araqchi, and he said that he's ready to come back on the negotiating table in Oman, but this war with Israel has to stop. Now, Israel, is it in its interest to stop? I don't think so. It is in the interest of Netanyahu to stop the wars at all.
When it comes to the Muslim world, whether it be the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or Oman or the UAE, they have all supported Iran's stance, and this is very clear. Pakistan has as well. There is a clear, line of demarcation when it comes to what the Muslim countries are saying, what the big Muslim countries are saying. On the other hand, there is also the comments that have come from the Russian side. There was a very strong comment that came from the Russian side. Then there was a comment by Donald Trump, who said that Russia could intervene and act as mediator between Israel and Iran. To add to that, the Turkish and Russian presidents also on a telephonic conversation discussed regional issues, including the conflict between Iran and Israel. On the one hand, we have this. On the other hand, we have the EU that completely dismisses Russia as having any kind of intervention whatsoever in this conflict. What's your take on all of that? Will Russia intervene? Can it intervene? Will it have any effect?
The main thing over here, definitely the deciding factors are China and Russia. At the moment, like I talked about the Strait of Hormuz, it has not been closed because China wants this oil supply from Iran, and so this has been not been shut down at the moment. If these commercial interests are hit, and if Russia also sees that these commercial interests that it has in the region are going to be hit, definitely both the powers are going to jump in. However, the Europeans are not really very happy about this whole thing. The Europeans are not really standing with the, definitely Iran, and they don't want anything to say which can devastate their own commercial interests with Israel as well, and that's why they are standing with it. Although deep down they understand that the main destructive power in the region is, Israel, and that was why France and Canada and UK, they put some sanctions on some of their officials as well. But as a country, they can't come out very, brazenly and say that Israel is the aggressor in the region. Now, if this thing escalates a little bit more, definitely the interests of China will come in, the interest of Russia will come in, and this will, spiral into a huge, big, blown out, full-fledged war. So we want this thing to diffuse right over here if Russia actually steps in or China.
Shazia, the world wants, I mean, at least the saner part of the world wants this issue to, de-escalate at the earliest, and also the issue in Palestine to end at the earliest, so that the people in Palestine can finally heave a sigh of relief, and maybe the two-state solution could be put into effect. Thank you very much, Shazia Malik, to have joined us all the way from Canada. Last question to you, Dr. Saad Khan. Dr. Saad Khan, I did allude a little bit earlier in the program to the division that exists in the world when it comes to the Israel-Iran conflict. We have seen the Muslim countries that have openly sided with Iran. We've seen the Russian and the Chinese side that have sided more or less with Iran. We have the Turkish side that has sided with Iran, the EU that sides with Israel, and that is very apparent. Will there ever be a consensus in the coming days between both these, not warring factions, but both these opposing factions, to come to some kind of a solution to this current conflict before it's way too late, before it gets out of hand?
I think that there is nothing called more or less support. There is either absolute support that US has for Israel, or for example the whole European Union has for Ukraine. And if there are a few sentences here and there, actually, that does not actually intimidate the aggressor enough to go back from aggression. So I think that Iran does not have such strong allies anywhere in the world. That probably even Russia, even China do not want to see a nuclear Iran or any other nuclear regional power in the region. So I think that is something where the world can come together.
All right.
Because I think Israel would not like to carry on this because there are reputational costs, there are financial costs. There, every weapon that is used against Iran is depleted from their stock actually. So I think even after 10 or 12 days, even Israel would like to call it a day.
Okay.
And Trump will actually take the credit.
Okay.
But then the negotiations by Iran with US would have a very, very weak Iran.
All right, but nevertheless, what we need right at this moment is a negotiated solution to this conflict, and an end to this current strike or strikes by Israel that is continuing as we speak. Thank you very much, Dr. Saad, to have joined us. That brings us to the end of today's show. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.